think we have to admit everyone. So let me just go ahead and do that. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We have quite a few folks that are dialing in, so we're just going to give it another moment or two for them to jump out of the lobby here and join us. We still have some folks joining us, so just go over a little bit of housekeeping for you. You are muted and your camera is disabled. That is by design, so don't panic. That is just because we have a ton of fantastic information to go over with you today, and we want to make sure that we get through everything and still have time for Q&A at the end. You should see a Q&A option at the top of your screen. Please feel free to put any questions that you have into that Q&A box at any point in time. And we have a group of folks here available who will be answering your questions, but then also we're going to try to have some time at the end to do some live Q&A and go over any questions that you have. So just give it another moment here, and then we will go ahead and get started. All right, team. I think our lobby is finally, well, no, we still got some folks coming in, but I want to go ahead and get started. So just real quick on some housekeeping. If you're just joining us, the cameras and microphones have been disabled. That is because we have a ton of content that we want to get through with you today. We do want to reserve some time at the end for Q&A. So you should see a Q&A box or an option at the top of your screen. If you go ahead and click that, please, any questions that you have at any point during the presentation, go ahead and put in there. We have some folks here that are going to be answering your questions. And also, hopefully, we have some time at the end that we can do just some live Q&A sessions. And with that, let's go ahead and get started, team. So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. I am Kim Angelone, the Program Director at ACI, and I'm thrilled to have you join us as we explore two groundbreaking tools that are transforming the appraisal industry, ACI Workbench and TrueTracts. Today, I'm joined by two incredible experts. First, we have Evelyn Schallberger, Product Manager at ACI, who has been leading the charge for our UAD 3.6 initiatives. Evelyn is passionate about creating innovative solutions that empower appraisers, and she'll be walking us through a live demo of Workbench, our dynamic cloud-based platform designed to streamline workflows and prepare appraisers for the future. Next, we're excited to have Paul Rowe, National Director at True Footage. With nearly 2 decades of experience as a real estate appraiser, Paul has a deep understanding of the industry's challenges and opportunities. He'll be showcasing TrueTracts, a powerful tool designed to simplify market analysis and enhance the credibility of appraisal reports. So here's what you can expect during today's session. Evelyn will kick things off with a demo of Workbench, showing you how it can revolutionize your workflow. Then Paul will take the stage to introduce TrueTracts and demonstrate how it can optimize your market analysis. Finally, we'll wrap up with a live Q&A session, so please be sure to stick around, get your questions answered, make good use of that Q&A box at the top of your screen. We're excited to share these tools with you today and show you how they can help you adapt and thrive in this constantly evolving industry. So let's get started. Evelyn, over to you.
Thanks, Kim. I'm going to go ahead and steal screen share here because, as Kim noted, we've got a lot of content to share with y'all. Very excited to do so. So first things first, we're going to dive into ACI Sky Workbench. Now, if you're unfamiliar, if you haven't attended one of our webinars, if you haven't heard us talking about this, if you're not on our email list, all the things, right? This is our cloud-based solution for UAD 3.6. So right when a user logs in, what you are going to see is your order dashboard. Now, I'm going to go through a lot of different tools in here, high level, and talk you through some of the tools in here that will make you more efficient when it comes to developing your URAR, as well as walking through how to complete the URAR in here. And then some data elements that are in here as well that we're displaying for y'all. So again, what you're going to see here right when you log in is your order dashboard. And this is specifically for your 3.6 orders, all your URARs, your reports for 3.6 will live in ACI Sky Workbench. And some features and tools in here that are helpful, maybe not necessarily unique to just the URAR, but helpful for you. When you're creating orders, you'll be able to filter down based on your inspection status, just to help you within your own workflow to determine what's next. What report do I want to work on now? Do I have new items, new orders that have come through the pipeline where I need to schedule inspection or do anything with it, right? And maybe enter in POC information. Maybe you've got some that are unscheduled that you do want to schedule. We've got some scheduled and you want to map out your day. Where are you going first? Some that have already been inspected. Maybe you're handing this off to someone in the office to go through and import your images or do, some preliminary data entry, and then you review that at a later point. Or maybe it's done and you need to grab all of the files in there and store them for your work file locally. So again, a nice to have in here to help you with the process, not unique necessarily to the URAR. But what else is on this screen? There's a lot of data, a lot of orders that are in here. Where's this coming from? Once a user creates an order in ACI Sky Workbench, we're going to pull in some public record information as well as some Street View images to give you a quick synopsis of what you're getting into with this particular order. So the image itself is a Google Street View image that's pulling in, and then the data that's coming through here is pulling from our integration with DataTree. And DataTree is a First American data product that we are integrating with to provide you with just more data. Now, when you tell us that's not right? Or if you tell us that's not the data I want to use, your data always will override it here. But initially, when you create the order, it's doing some back-end work for you to say at 57 Valencia Drive, this is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath subject property. We do display GLA in a lot of instances still. They are never going to be that GLA element is never mapped into your URAR because we know GLA is not a data element that is in 3.6, right? We're using above area grade, finished, unfinished, standard, non-standard, all that good stuff. So while it's here for familiarity, it's not mapping in anywhere into your URAR, just for reference there. But again, just some preliminary information here for you to consider before you dive into the order. Now, when I open up an order and I am taking into consideration any of the elements that we've added in when we created the order, the client fee, all of this good stuff. Now this is a test order, a fake order, if you will. So that's why we've got XYZ lender, client ABC, all that good information. But what you see on the screen as well immediately is our report tracker, our progress tracker bar on the left-hand side. Now we're going to dive into this in greater detail here in a few minutes, but this is where your URAR starts to come to life, and you'll be able to access this through any point during the life cycle of the appraisal for you to get started on your order, or if you want to instead pop over to our subject and market research tab, this is where you can start to see some additional data for the subject property come through for consideration. So you're going to see that same image come through, Google Street View image. Then we're going to put together a little map here for you with potential sales for you to consider, and we'll dive further here into that as well in just a second. But the data that's listed on here, we've got descriptions, legal descriptions, broker remarks in here. This is all for your review and consideration. Again, none of this will map into your URAR unless you decide you would like it to. And we're going to also call out if there are discrepancies here for any items, right? Again, Data Tree is a data product from First American that has access to both public record and MLS data. So we'll show you the source in every instance so that you can decide. And then there will be an option to add this into your URAR should you feel that it's relevant, right? Trust but verify in here. Site and utilities data, general property characteristics data, exterior details, interior details, lots that we could include in here for your review and for consideration. Now we also have the comparables tab in here. So this tool is intended to allow you as users to create neighborhood boundaries and store them and be able to reference, the different comparables that you've analyzed in different neighborhoods for future reference as well. But we've got a few different drawing tools here that you'll be able to utilize: freehand, polygon, or radius. In my opinion, polygon's the easiest, so I'm just going to go ahead and grab that here to draw. Let's see this boundary for you. So once I close that boundary, right, we see now that it's filled in. The subject property itself is already identified in the center. When I tell it to search, what that's going to do is pull in some sales for consideration, again, from Data Tree as a source for you to consider. When we do that, it's going to pull in, again, the relevant comparables for consideration within that boundary that you've drawn. Now, initially, it's going to pull in sales within a 10-mile radius sold within the last 6 months. You can further refine that with filters. If you want to come in here and adjust that, of course, all the parameters are going to differ depending on which report you're using, right? And what we'll have in here is a save feature for neighborhoods for your filters for you to be able to refer back to them. If you're working in the same neighborhoods frequently, right, we want to make sure that you're able to just store that information in here. But also with our data providers that we're integrating with, that gives you some more robust data in here, right? You'll be able to click our import button and you'll be able to select the provider that you're going to be importing from your CSV on, drag and drop that file in here. And once we attach it and import it on the back end, we'll see some additional data points that come through, and they should be identified separately from the individual dots that we added in here. And you'll see the source name that should come up notifying us that it's not Data Tree data. This is actually either whatever the provider is that you're going to be uploading. In this case, we've got TrueTracts data that's coming through for you to see. These are some sales for consideration from there, as well as all the additional data points that we've mapped that will come through with regard to that subject property, or excuse me, those sales for consideration as well. Okay, another feature that we are excited to be rolling out is our analytics portion. Now, if you're using ACI Analytics, this is a much needed upgrade, facelift for a lot of the analytics tools that will be within here. We're limited right now as far as what's in here, but what will be added in here are all of the different graphs that you'd be able to add to that market section of your report, right? Market is kind of the renamed neighborhood section, if you will. It's market now, and we can add a bunch of different graphs in there based on what you would like to add in there. And it's just as simple as clicking the button to add it into your report, and that will map into the appropriate section of the URAR, again, that being the market section of your report. All right, the next feature I want to show in here is our files and photos. Now, this is exactly what it says it is, right? There are oftentimes a lot of documents related to an order, and many of them images as well, right? Many of them are going to go into your URAR, but maybe some of them don't, right? And you still want to save those and make sure they're associated with the order. When you download everything, you want to make sure they're stored in your work file. And this is where you can do that when the order is live within here. So purchase contracts, letter of engagement, plans and specs, your MLS sheet, if you're uploading anything for import there, all of your images to go through. You can either upload individually or you can upload items in bulk, drag and drop in here. You're able to remove items if you accidentally uploaded something in error. And then once you're done, right, if you say the order gets canceled, or maybe you've just completed it and everything's in here, you can go ahead and hit the download files and photos in the top right. That's going to give you a zip package of everything in here associated with that order for you to store locally on your machine for your own work file. You can go through and change the labels as well in categories. We've gotten a lot of great feedback from our beta testers that there are the additional categories or additional labels that we want to add in here. So that's actually in development right now for us to add some more in here, and then make sure they're mapping appropriately to the section of the URAR that they should live in, if that's where you would like them to go. Okay, now let's pop over into Report Builder. So Report Builder and Report Tracker, these two are related to each other in that this is where your URAR starts to be put together, filled in, and come to life. Now, if you have, again, heard us refer, or anyone really refer to what's really changing with UAD 3.6, a lot of new data elements, and we're looking at a dynamic, right, data set in here. So oftentimes, what does that mean? People keep telling me it's dynamic. And really what we mean by that is if you answer one question one way, that potentially is going to give us 3 more questions to answer related to the subject property, or maybe it's going to take away 10 questions because it's not related to the subject property anymore. So if we see in here that we are, I didn't mean to select that twice. If we are going through and making our selections, it should change, give us additional questions to answer, or to for it to ask us, for us to go through and complete the entire section. So this one right now is already labeled as purchase. I'm gonna actually leave that for right now because we'll want to generate a PDF here and see what this is going to look like. But this is where you just start to go through and enter in your information, contact information. The appraiser is always going to be the default here. We know we need an appraiser on all of these, so this selection actually can't change. It knows that it's required here, and we'll go through and enter our info within here. Now, we will also have the ability from a tools perspective from the profile section for you to add all of this in there. So you're not manually entering in your information 100% of the time in here. Future state for this particular section for contact info. And that will be for you, for yourself, for appraisers in your office, anyone that's providing significant assistance, trainees. That will also go for client lenders, anyone that maybe you're doing work for all the time. We want to make sure that that information is stored so you don't have to manually enter it in every single time. But one thing I also want to call out about our workflow is I clicked on the report builder and it's automatically starting me in the assignment section, right? That is the first section of the URAR for all of them. Now we know that some of these sections will change based on the property type as we start to refine that here and tell the report what the property type is. But if you want to, you're able to jump into any section at any point in time and start to fill in different parts of your URAR. Now, what our tracker will do on the left side, this navigation bar, is make you aware, hey, this one's in progress. You still have some work to do here. And as you see, the rest of them continue to say not started because we haven't dove into those just yet. But here again is where we see some of that dynamic nature come into play. Special tax assessment. If I say yes, then I get a description box. What are those special tax assessments? If we say no, box goes away because that question is not relevant. So that's what we mean when we say dynamic. It's what we mean when we say Workbench offers field level validations. Really all of the selections in here, all of the enumerations that you can go through and select are direct from the GSE's requirements. So as far as getting back clarification requests, revisions, depending on what your client refers to them as, we're really, really hoping that this is going to minimize things significantly. So our first layer of defense is that we have field level validation in here, making it to where you can only select an option that the GSEs have provided within this list. That way, there's no right? In today's world, if it's not relevant, there's a lot of NA for you to go through, and the reader maybe is missing that or not combing through it correctly to understand that that's not relevant. That doesn't exist in 3.6 land. It's nice, and it cleans up the end result for the reader. But as we go through here and fill in different sections, what we also are going to provide for our users is the ability to preview the PDF at any point in time. So right now, there was some data saved in the assignment information. There's a little bit of data in here, and I added some, I made some additional selections in here for our radio buttons right here. If I were to click on the PDF view, what that's going to do is compile what I've done thus far within the PDF and show you where your data is mapping. Now, this will be a fairly empty PDF, but there should be, the property address, the selections made here for the different radio buttons, property in a project, all that kind of good stuff. And once that is completed, then you have your full zip package. But right now, I get to preview what this PDF is going to look like initially without completing it, right? Before getting my zip, before getting my XML, the PDF, and the images folder, I get this package here, which is the URAR, even without a lot of the data filled in. We know it was a traditional assignment. It was a purchase. These are the borrower names that we had. It was detached. Here are the selections that were made. In this case, we didn't get to anything about project efficiency, so there's no selection here. And actually, it wouldn't print in here once I get to that answer, but no units excluding ADUs. Fee simple was our option for property rights appraised. We hadn't gotten to the highest and best use just yet, so that's blank. So again, you can come in here and you can see specifically where's my data mapping, what is my finished product looking like thus far, and kind of give you confidence here in what that end product is going to be. Now we also, right, we talked about the first layer of kind of security, if you will, for y'all for getting back those clarification requests and revision requests. Field level validation, you can only select options that we've implemented here. In the case that for some reason something wasn't required initially, then you'd be able to go in and run rules against the entire report once your report is complete. We do have the review button deactivated until the report is complete, just because the new rules, the compliance API engine is a lot of rules that are in there. And so that's going to be a little bit overkill unless we've got a completed assignment for you to run through. So we've integrated with both the GSC compliance APIs. Fannie's got one, Freddie's got one. They are said to be identical. However, we wanted to make sure we integrated with both. And what we will do is once you're running your report, all of those rules are running it on the back end, and then they will display to you very similar to how Review Master runs today, just with a different look and feel. Critical errors are always going to be in red to indicate to you these absolutely need changes. You won't be able to submit your final report without making these changes. And then the warnings are per the GSC's items that you'll want to review. You might want to consider making edits here, but technically you could go through and submit these without making any changes. All right, and one of the other features that I want to show in here that I'm very, very excited about is our feedback modal. This is how we say, in a lot of other ways as well, but this is primarily how I'm able to confidently say this platform is made for appraisers by appraisers. I am not an appraiser. However, we make sure we stay in the room with appraisers constantly to understand what it is that they need when it comes to technology, right? We built the foundation of what the GSEs require and those fields that you can select from and make sure that it's dynamic and that you can navigate wherever you'd like to navigate when you see fit. But there are so many elements to your workflow or your workload that differ per user. And so this is our feedback modal that lives inside Workbench. Our beta testers are constantly filling this out for us to let us know what features they'd like to have added in here. So this lives within Workbench. They can select a category. They can give us the feedback. My team is immediately notified, and then we have, processes in place where we review them. We meet with them weekly to go over and analyze them. And just to share with this group, 35 to about 40% of the feedback that we have gotten thus far from our beta testers has either changed our requirements that we have written or influenced brand new ones to be written for the platform. So we're very excited to say, and we truly mean it when we say this is built for appraisers by appraisers. And we're going to continue to do that because, again, while we're good with the foundation, we know what the GSEs want. We want to make sure we also have tools in place that really help make you more efficient, make your jobs a little easier and enjoyable. So that's everything that I did want to show in ACI Sky Workbench today. If there aren't any questions that we want to pause for really quick, otherwise I'm going to hand it over to Paul.
Sorry, I jumped the gun on the share. I thought it was going to.
Oh, you're all good.
So pause for questions. If there's questions you guys want to handle, go ahead.
There's lots of questions actually, but I think, I mean, I've been typing feverishly, so I think I've been doing a somewhat decent job of keeping on top of them. So go ahead, Paul, feel free to jump on in.
Great. Okay. So we're going to jump into TrueTracts. Now, this is typically an hour presentation. I'm squeezing into like a 20 to 25 minute bag. So I'm going to move quickly. This is not meant to be a training. This is just meant to be an overview. So join our Facebook group. We have an hour and a half training that really dives deep into all the nuances of this tool. So let's get started here. I'm going to talk you through the process. We'll go through that pretty quick with some slides, then I'll get into a live demo. I'll go through that pretty quick, and then we'll talk pricing. So TrueTracts, we want to build a strong foundation on the market definition tab. So we're going to help you define your market in a data-driven way. We're going to give you this really intuitive, cool heat map to help guide you. This is going to help you build a large curated data set of competing properties that we're then going to use to fuel our time adjustments, feature adjustments, and other things later on in the process. Then we move to market analysis, and we're going to analyze all of those different trends. I will show you that actually in the tool rather than spend time talking about that here. Then we just built an integration to Spark. So there's already thousands of appraisers using Spark to import and clean your data. One of the best tools on the market for that. We have integrated that with TrueTracts. So you simply click a button in TrueTracts, it opens up a Spark session tied to that session. You import your comps the way you normally do. You do the cost approach if you want, and then you export that right back into TrueTracts. And now you have all your data cleaned and you just save 20 minutes of data entry. That is typically $69 a month. That is included in your TrueTracts Pro subscription. Then we go over to feature adjustments. Super excited about this. So we are providing you guys with 4 statistically independent methods. We're using GAM, that's big data market reaction modeling. You can see the chart down here below. What's really cool about GAM is it's analyzing all the differences in the features simultaneously, and it's drawing you this very cool chart that shows, in some cases, the law of diminishing returns. And so you have the ability to adjust either in a linear fashion, or you can switch to nonlinear, which would adjust these comps, in this case, up here at 2,600 square feet, a little bit less than it's adjusting the difference between 2,000 and 2,100 square feet. We're providing peer adjustments. So these are real world appraiser reconciled decisions after analyzing 12 different methods in Synapse. We're providing depreciated cost. We all know what that is. And then sensitivity analysis. So it's kind of, sensitivity is like the opposite of GAM. GAM is big data market reaction. You're analyzing hundreds, if not thousands of sales. Sensitivity is going, well, what do those 4 closed sales in my grid tell me that adjustment should be? We don't have time to get into this. Reconciliation, I think this is better shown than talked about here, so I will get into that there. And then export. When you get done with this whole process, you're going to be able to export a market analysis PDF that includes all your charts and decisions there, an adjustment analysis PDF, reconciliation. It's going to fill in your neighborhood data on page 1, top of page 2, 1004 MC, and then it's going to throw a bunch of stuff in your work file. Okay, let's jump into the demo. And so I have entered in some basic features about this subject property, and I'm going to click Save and Classify. I'm going to use the cluster probabilities that are going to show up over here on the right. And it looks like this belongs to cluster 15. So I'm going to click on that. That's going to be a guide that is going to help me draw my initial subject submarket. And so I might want to come here to here and grab a bunch of those properties. And then I'm going to apply some filters. So we're going to apply some automated filters for you, but these are completely adjustable. If you don't like the way these filters were applied, if I want to go to 2023, I change that and it will just cut out some of those comps at the upper end. And so you're in complete control of these filters. You can see the areas in gray. These are the properties that we cut out. But the idea here is you want this data set to be competing properties. And so you're going to apply those filters. You want to get at least 100 properties in here. Right here we have 269. And so we're going to go ahead and click create heat map. So this is one of the coolest things about this tool. Right now it is training a statistical model on all of the sales within those boundaries I just drew and within the filters I just applied. And it's learning the relationship between features and sale price. It's then going to take what it learned from that and it's going to try and predict the sale price of all of the homes that have sold in the last 5 years in the area. And it's going to then, when it predicts those sale prices within 3%, those are going to be colored in a dark green area. When it predicts them and it's off by more than 6%, it's going to color them either red or blue. In this case, these properties, after controlling for all the other features, they're selling for 11% more. And so we're indicating that to you. The other really important thing about this is, so we have 269 sales over 5 years, but the tool has automatically gathered another 1,067 sales for us to fuel our adjustments for time and for features. We've learned that when you use GAM, it can be really, really powerful to analyze time and feature adjustments, but it wants a lot of data. And so we've found a way for you guys to get that pretty quickly because we're grabbing all the home sales that are located in these dark green areas. These are areas where the model was able to predict those sale prices based on what it learned from these sales, meaning these are similar homes with similar features selling for similar prices. And they can really help us understand the market reaction to adjustments for time and features. We're then going to move on to market analysis. So now we've got this large curated data set. It's not just a huge data set of a bunch of random properties. These are similar properties in the same market. So I'm going to click on that and it's going to load up our sale price, our time adjustment graph, supply, days on market, all kinds of different stuff. I won't spend a ton of time analyzing this, but let's just focus on sale price trend. We're doing some really cool stuff here. This is not just plotting raw sale price and drawing the line. We're using adjusted sale prices. So we're using GAM to first adjust all of these properties for their differences. Then we're plotting them on the line. There's a lot of reasons we do that, but it ends up with a much more credible trend. We're also including pending sales to really fine tune this most recent time period. You have the ability here to zoom in or out. You can go up, come in and look at 1 year and kind of see what that change is. We're going to write the commentary for you. You're in control though. You get to choose what that thing is, what that trend is. And all of these eyes, you'll see these little eyes throughout the tool. Just hover over those and those will give you information about what's going on there. There's a lot going on in this tool. We want to give you as much support within the tool as you can. I also should take a minute to show off this little chatbot over here. So this is an AI chatbot trained on the data that we provided it. We've written, I think, 60 pages now of information about TrueTracts, and it's trained on that data. And you can ask it any question you want, and it will give you a really good answer. So please use this for support. You can add your own custom commentary if you want. We have supply. Let's skip through these because we don't have a lot of time. All of this will get filled out in your report. So these decisions were made above based on your price trends, based on your supply and demand, based on market time, days on market. We'll fill out this. It will fill out the top of page 2. It will fill out your 1004 MC. You can make these choices here if you want. We have suggested commentary. And so that's kind of the market analysis. Then you're going to move to get your comps. So you're going to go to your MLS and you're going to do your normal comp selection. You're going to draw your boundaries, apply your filters, search for your comps. And so let's say that we find those comps. We export them the normal way that we do. You export those into a CSV file, and then you're going to upload those into Spark. And so I'm going to click here and get those comps. And if you have a subject file, you want to upload that as well. So we'll do that next. And for those of you not familiar with Spark, Spark right now is comparing the MLS data you just sent it to public records, and it's also cleaning it up and putting it in UAD format. So you just save 20 minutes of data entry because you've got all this stuff filled out. I can hover over these red. These are where there's a discrepancy, and I can change these. I won't spend a lot of time on that right now. And then I'm going to hit export. I'm going to click go. And this is now going to send all of this data back into TrueTracts. And so it's going to open up this session. It's now grabbing all that data, loading it in. If you did the cost approach in Spark, it will pull that in also, and it'll import it into ACI when it comes time to export. And then what is the other thing? Prior sales history. So it is also grabbing the prior sale history for the subject for 3 years and the comps for 1 year. Okay, so now this tells us that the Spark data import was successful. So it's going to load that up. And so what we want to do here is on grid cleanup, we just want to focus on getting the data correct. So all we're focused on, we're not focused on adjustments. We're just making sure all of this data is exactly how we want it. So we're making sure the basement finish is right, the porch patio deck, all of this stuff is the way we want it, so that when we move on, now all we have to do is analyze it. We don't have to worry about changing these things. You can see by default, it has defaulted to quality and condition ratings. I told it the subject was rated these things, and it is going to default to that for your comps, but you're in control. You change those, hover over the tooltip. These are the new UAD definitions for these. If you change these, we will default to a depreciated cost adjustment that you're later going to refine in your grid. There's a lot of stuff we could go over there. We're going to skip all that, and we're going to move next to adjustments. Okay, so now it's analyzing. Again, we got that big data set. We have the first group of 200 and some properties over 5 years, but then it grabbed those competing submarket properties of, I think there were over 1,000. And now we get to analyze those and see what's going on. So spend a little bit of time here. So this is the GAM model here on the left. You see all of the data points. We basically adjusted for everything except for GLA. We plot those, and then we fit a GAM model, smooth yet flexible trend line through that data. Because we know your comps now, we don't care about the rate of change from 2,400 to 2,600. You could see the law of diminishing returns is taking place up here, but we don't care about that in this example because the smallest comp is 1,900, the biggest comp's 2,300. We care about this rate of change right here. And so that number is 96. So $96 is the indicated adjustment. That's the best guess estimate. It's providing you a range, $89 to $104. This is the 90% credible interval. That's a statistical term that basically means anything in here is supported. The model is 90% sure that the true adjustment lies within this range. So this is just one method. Now we have these other 3 methods over here, and we get to decide which ones we want to rely on. And so we have peer adjustments. I would love to spend some time on this. We don't have time, but we're gathering, we have over 3.3 million adjustments that appraisers have used in Synapse, where they've reconciled 12 different methods into an adjustment. We're filtering all of those with an algorithm to make sure we're grabbing similar adjustments made on similar properties in the same or similar market. And we're getting at least 100 of those, and we're showing you the percentiles. So it looks like the median adjustment appraisers made on a similar property in this market was $85, the low, the high. Then we have depreciated cost. Everybody knows what that is. And then we have sensitivity. So the way that I would approach this problem is I have a range of 89 to 104, 63 to 100, depreciated cost at 95. Sensitivity is telling me I want to be at the high end of that. And so I could, if I don't like depreciated cost, I simply toggle it off. And you can see the commentary down here changes, right? If I toggle these off, that commentary is going to change accordingly. So I just want the methods that, as the appraiser, I'm in control, which one of these make the most sense to me. And in this case, I would like to use this. I would like to use peer adjustments. Heck, depreciated cost kind of lines up there. What sensitivity is telling me is I want to be at the upper end of these ranges. And so I could go as high as 100 here, 100 would work here, and 95 is kind of in that range. So I might reconcile this at 100, and I'm going to toggle sensitivity on. And so I have 4 different methods supporting my adjustment of $100 in this example. Lot size, we could run through a similar example. We have $1.60 to $5.20. That's 3.3 is the best guess estimate. That really lines up with peer. We can't do depreciated cost on lot size. Sensitivity says you want to be at the low end. That's the number that's going to narrow the range, the adjusted range of your comps the most. And so maybe I want to consider that as well. And maybe I want to come down here at $2. So now I'm within what GAM is supporting, I'm within what peer is supporting, and I'm using sensitivity to come in at the lower end of both. And then I have all this awesome commentary written for me. It's gonna be really hard for an underwriter to try and have the guts to ask you to explain how you got your lot size adjustment. Bathrooms, similar thing. Let me see where we're at with time. Okay, I'm not going to go through all of these. Let me do bathrooms and then we'll move on. I won't scroll through all of them. But in this case, we have 16, the best guess estimate. It's a little higher here, but the low end at 12.7 is within peer. So I could toggle peer on. I could use GAM and peer, which is in line with depreciated costs. Sensitivity says go to the low end. And so I might do this and go 12,000. And again, I have 4 methods. Now there's not a perfect right way to do this. You might say, you know what? I don't want any of these methods. I just really like this and I want to use 16. That's okay too. You're in control. Let me scroll through those. Now, when we come down to the bottom, we have additional features. So if I want enclosed porch, I can click on that. That's going to bring this in. It's going to show me peer adjustments and it's going to show me depreciated costs. We don't know how big or small or what kind of quality your porch is, and so you get to choose. We're providing you a table from our depreciated cost provider, and you hover over these. These will tell you what that quality is, and these will tell you the size of what those are. And so if I want to use depreciated cost, maybe I do that, and I enter in 16,000 because I have an above average enclosed porch quality, and it's about 500 square feet. So that would work there. We also have a bunch of other features, and then if you need to add a custom feature that is not supported, you can do that here. You enter the name, REO short sale, and then you type in your support for that, you click submit, and now you have your support for your REO sale right here along with all your other adjustments. Now we're going to move on to reconciliation. So you've done all this work to get to this point, and now you get to fine tune this grid. So you can click on the full grid view, which is going to show you every single field. That's a lot, right? Let me zoom out here. Or you can click on analysis mode. That just gets rid of all the nonsense. Like you've already cleaned the grid. You don't want to see that all of these have one story because you're not going to do anything with that. So we're going to hide that stuff for you. So you guys can see in yellow, all those yellow fields, those disappear. So you can really focus on what matters. I can click into each of these comps. And I can go through here and I can try and fine tune my quality and condition adjustments. I can hit the down arrow. That takes me to the next comp. I hit the right arrow. I quickly go through those. And so I might say here, if I go back to this grid, see, this one's adjusting really low. And so let's say I jumped into the photos saying, you know what, that's not a C4 plus. That's more of a C4 minus. That was in bad condition. It's going to apply a depreciated cost adjustment to that. And now it brought it more in line with the rest of these comps. You can scroll down here and make sure you don't have any functional obsolescence with any of your comps. And so once you finalize this grid, you lock everything in. Let me show you one other feature. Let's say I want to revisit GLA, but I don't want to go back to feature adjustments. I just click GLA and this whole module pops right up here and it has highlighted the GLA row. And so I can see the GLA row, I can modify what I'm relying on or what I'm not and go through that process. Let me get rid of that. And then when you're done, you got all this locked in, you click on this, it opens up a reconciliation dashboard. I don't have time to go through all of this, but we're basically, you're rating your comps. We default to ratings based on your gross adjustments. You are in control, you can change these. Those give us the weights. We then do some math here to get the most likely value. We then give you a supported range. So you can pick any number in here and you are statistically supported. If you want to know more about that, This will go in your report and it explains to the reader exactly what's going on here. So please read that. And I might want to reconcile this. Maybe this is a property that's got multiple offers at 470 or above. And so I'm going to reconcile this a little bit at the higher end of the range, which this has a 73% likelihood to be the right value compared to the best guess estimate. You can then add some more commentary down here. I won't do this now. You can pop this out. It will open up in a separate, the grid will open up in a read-only view. You can move that to another monitor so that you can type all your reconciliation while looking at that grid. Then you're going to proceed to the export. And then this takes a while to load because there's a lot of stuff going in here. I'll quickly run through what this is. So you're going to get this market analysis PDF that shows all the filters you applied, defines everything, explains to the reader. You got the heat map. You can zoom in and make that exactly how you want it to look in your report. We have all of the sale price trends. Right now, this is showing 5 years. If I want to change that to 1 year in my report, I click that. It changes to 1 year. 1004MC, all this is going to go in your work file, the calculations that were done, the farm list. These are all of those properties that are in your analysis. That goes in your work file. This will go in your report. We're explaining the process. We're explaining GAM, the generalized additive model, the different methods we're using. We're putting the charts, all the commentary in. And then lastly, we are putting the reconciliation, which is really good, deep support for how you reconcile all of that great data into an opinion of value. And then you export, send it right into ACI. Stuff will go into the work file, stuff will go into the report. Let me wrap up here. So what did we just do? We built that strong foundation by defining our market using data. We created that large curated data set. We then analyzed the market intelligently. We imported our comps efficiently, saving 20 minutes of data entry. We reconciled the adjustments with confidence. We help tell the story with all of that dynamic commentary that we wrote for you. And then we close the loop with smart reconciliation. Pricing. Next. Okay, right now, Spark and Synapse. Spark is $69 a month unlimited. Synapse is $30. That's $99 a month. You get market analysis, adjustment support, and comp cleaning. With TrueTracts, you're getting the same comp cleaning, but you're also getting way better adjustment support. You're getting way better market analysis. You're getting the market definition, the heat map, the curated data set, and the reconciliation dashboard. You might think, uh-oh, that's going to be expensive. It's not. Same price. So we are not raising the price at all, but we're giving you guys a ton more. Go to TrueTracts.com to sign up. Office hours every day at noon Central. In the tool, you just hit this question mark right here. If I want to join office hours, which is actually happening right now, this will be live. So it looks like there's about 12 or 13 people in there. And so you just jump right in and you tell us what the problem is and we'll walk you through a solution. We're at 75% nationwide coverage right now for data. We're working to improve that. And I think that's it for me. Let's do questions.
All right, fantastic. Thanks so much, Paul. I'm going to go ahead and just put this up on the screen for the folks here. There we go. Okay, everybody should be able to see my screen. So we have two offers that we are providing to all webinar attendees today. For ACI, you can have $75 off of your subscription. Just head over to aciweb.com/webinar promo. And for True Footage, they are offering a free 2-week trial. Head over to TrueTracts.com for more information there. I have lots of questions. It's been quite a busy chat while you guys were going through your presentations. So I have a few pulled aside. There's been multiple questions about data. And so I'll pose this out to both Paul and Evelyn here. So where the data that you're using, where exactly is this coming from? Is it public records? Is it MLS? What is the coverage? And is there any type of data validation that is done? So Paul, do you want to take that first?
Yeah, so our data, we have an MLS data feed where every day we get the updated listings and sales and all that from the different MLSs. Again, we're in 75% of the markets. We don't have access to all of them, but in the markets we're in, we get like 99% of those sales. So It will miss one here or there, but it's not, when you're dealing with hundreds of data points to analyze stuff, if you miss one, it's not going to change the data set much. With Spark, we are also using Realist, I believe, is our public records provider there. So we're actually using MLS and public records there.
Thank you much. Evelyn? Evelyn, I see your mouth moving, but I can't hear a single thing you're saying. Nope, got nothing. Let me see if I have you muted here. Let me go in. Maybe I muted you. No, you are not muted. Oh, Evelyn.
I think I can answer that for her because she addressed
I can actually. Here, let me take this one, Paul. Sorry, Evelyn. I'm going to steal your thunder. So for Workbench, we have various sources of data that are coming into our solution. Primarily, it's coming from DataTree, First American's data solution. That is public records data, but we also have MLS data that is coming directly into Workbench. As far as validation, you know, public records is public records, MLS is MLS. There's really not a way to validate. That's why we need appraisers, right? We trust you to make the best decisions here and do your due diligence. So I can at least say that within Workbench, you have the ability to override. You can select which data elements you want to include, which ones you do not want to include. We've actually also been talking to our Innovation Council, and one of the ideas that came up recently was, you know, in my certain market, every time they do like square footage, it's wrong every single time. I don't ever want to use square footage. No problem. So we're working on giving you the ability to configure exactly which fields you would like to incorporate within your the new URAR in Workbench, and you'd be able to store that in your profile. I hope that answers some of the data questions that have been coming in. This question is specific to Paul. So does Spark, or I guess TrueTracts, recognize if sales have multiple parcel sales? And does it correct the square footage for properties like by levels? My auditor does not calculate this properly.
So in Spark, you're in complete control over which data source is used. Again, like we don't have a way to magically like come up with a different number than what public records does or MLS does. We're limited to those choices. So if your MLS is telling us that it's 2,000 square feet on a bi-level and there's 1,000 in the basement, but they're not telling us that, and public records is also telling us 2,000, we have no way to like cut that in half and divide out the basement. So you would have to do that during the data cleanup in the grid. But what we have learned from TrueTracts, when you're analyzing big data sets, those little minor things don't impact the data as much as with, like in your comps in a grid, you want to spend 5 minutes on each comp, making sure that's really good. That's important. But when you're dealing with 1,000 data points to try and figure out a GLA adjustment, it's really not that big of a deal if some of them don't have the right data.
Fantastic. Thank you. Evelyn, I'm assuming that you are still unable.
I don't know.
We heard you. Yay.
Great. I did nothing different, but I'm here.
All right. Well, just in time for this super loaded question that I have. I think this is kind of like a 3-in-1 here. So I'm going to answer I'm going to ask you one question at a time, but just know that there's 3 coming at you.
Okay.
So the first one, 2.6 offers a file lister will that be part of 3.6?
File lister meaning?
Like whenever they go into the desktop, they have the ability to say, all right, well, this is an exterior, so I'm going to select a 2055, or this is an interior, so I'm going to select a 1004. Like how is that managed with 3.6?
Oh, gotcha. So that's really by the property valuation method, right? That we're looking at in here. So it's not a 1-for-1. Like if that hasn't been abundantly clear from any of the content that is out there with regard to 3.6 versus 2.6, the data elements are different. Yes, there are some that are the trying to take something that was initially 2.6 and making it 3.6, we don't have those layers in place. Like it's what we have within Workbench is going through, and when you're filling out the UR/AR, that's where you're identifying whether it is, a purchase in traditional or exterior versus interior based on your inspection. The questions are much more refined in that way to get you to the specific property type. So it's not a one-for-one. So probably not the most ideal answer to the person who asked that question, but no, there won't be that in Workbench. It's a different data set.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest pieces of UAD 3.6 is that it's data driven and not like property type or inspection driven. Right. It's driven by the data. And so previously, you would try to cram all of this information for any type of unique property into a very static form. Whereas now the GSEs are saying we're taking the form completely out of the equation. There's no such thing as a form anymore. It's a report. And every single report is different based off of the data that you enter for that specific subject property. So there's really no file lister because it's just, you just kind of start and go, and your report will end up looking completely different probably from the last report that you created just because of the data that you're entering for that specific property. All right, question number 2. How will mapping, so mapping distance and direction for comparables, how will that work in Workbench?
So all of our mappings are pulling in through Google Maps. So it's based on the subject property, and then you tell it, do you want it 5 miles from the subject property, 10 miles, 2 miles, half a mile? You will control all of that with filters, but what it's pulling in, that's being done automatically from Google. So the subject's pinned on there immediately, and then whatever parameters you set, that's how that will work.
And then the appraiser has the opportunity to override anything that is auto-populated into the grid. So if it's calculating the distance from the subject to a comparable, and let's say that it's calculating it incorrectly, right? Or we know that the distance should be a little bit different or something like that. Maybe you have a customer that wants, driving distance instead of as the crow flies or something. You have the ability to override any of that data. Okay, last question. Appraisers need the ability to blur people from photos. Is this a function that will exist in Workbench?
That's a great question. We talked about that quite a bit at Val Expo too. It is a feature we're looking into to have available come broad production for users to be able to have.
Fantastic. We're also looking at ways for it to happen automatically too with some cool AI features.
Yes.
All right. Well, we only have 2 minutes left. Let's see if I can squeeze in one more question, and I'm going to kick this back over to Paul just to make sure he's still paying attention. Paul, what is the source of the depreciated cost values?
Dwelling costs. So we're using dwelling costs. So we know you're telling us the rating of the subject. So let's say you say it's a Q4 and it's a C4. Q4 equates to a 60-year economic life. C4 equates to probably like a 25 effective year age. And so that has depreciated by, I don't know the math in my head, like 40%. And so we're going to say, what is the cost to build this house new? And let's depreciate it 40%. Now your comp, you said that was a Q4, but a C3. And so that's effective age is only 15 years. So it's only depreciated 25%. So we're going to take that, that house, what's the cost to build that and its square footage and its bed, bath, and the whole thing. And then let's compare that to the subject. And whatever the difference is, that's the adjustment that we're giving you for depreciated cost.
Thank you, Paul. That takes us right up to time. So folks, I think that there were some folks that really weren't able to see the presentation. We had lots of questions about whether this will be recorded and shared. Yes, it will. This will be available to you. So if you missed any portion of today's presentation, don't worry, we'll get that out to you. So thank you all for joining us today. We hope you found this session insightful and inspiring as we explored how ACI Workbench and TrueTracts are transforming the appraisal industry. So a big thank you to Evelyn Schallberger and Paul Rowe for their fantastic demos and sharing their expertise with us today. If you have any questions or want to learn more, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We have our websites listed on the screen right here. You can head over to aciweb.com. You can also go to TrueTracts.com. We have some folks just eager to get back to you and make some connections. So let's continue to embrace innovation, work together to shape the future of appraising. Have a great day, and we look forward to seeing you in our next session.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks so much,
Thanks.
Paul.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.